Media Dialogues in 2022.
Hello, on Media Dialogues today, our starting point is a statement made a quarter of a century ago. In 1996, Bill Gates said, "Content is where I expect much of the real money will be made on the internet, just as it was in broadcasting." That's what he had written in an essay called "Content is King." We are living out that prediction today with our insatiable appetite for all kinds of content and the ability for everyone to create and disseminate it. To speak about this gold rush and the prevailing popular tropes, I'm delighted to present Amish. From a self-published debut to 9 books in 20 languages and over 5.5 million copies sold, from selling the streaming rights for the Shiva trilogy to his debut as an anchor with the legend of the Ramayana with Amish on Discovery Plus, it's safe to say Amish has a good view of what's happening in this business. Amish, it is so good, first of all, to see you in person in Mumbai in the studio.
Anuradha, absolute pleasure being here. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Amish, you have this vantage point. What do you make of this gold rush, this content rush that's happening as a writer, as a creator, as someone who's been in this business for a while now, you know, and when I say business, I mean storytelling.
Look, content in some ways has always been king, right?
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Muriel Rukeyser said that the universe is not made up of atoms, it's actually made up of stories. That's how we humans, we communicate with each other. That's how we carry forward our culture. India is the only pre-Bronze Age culture that is still alive, in large part because we still remember our stories. The Egyptians have forgotten the stories of Amun-Ra, the Mesopotamians have forgotten the stories of Gilgamesh. We still celebrate the stories of Lord Ram, Lord Shiva, Shakti Ma. So stories, content has always been king. The problem was that often earlier, the kings would often be paupers. So just because you made content didn't mean that you actually made money from it. The point I'm trying to make is content has always been king, only the medium has changed. And what has changed dramatically over the last few decades is content creators make so much money. This is new. Today, because people can actually, the audience chooses what content they want and then they can pay for it. That's what actually generates so much wealth for content creators. And in that sense, what Bill Gates said about the internet, what the internet does, it makes the audience choice so much more convenient, right? You don't have to, earlier you actually had, 100 years ago, you actually had to visit Ram Leela Maidan and perhaps buy a ticket. 50 years ago, many bookstores have sadly shut down now. People are buying through the internet much more often. But the internet just makes it far more convenient for audiences to purchase.
Right. Give me a sense of what you're witnessing, what you're experiencing, and the changes that you have seen in what, over 11 years have been in this
I think
space.
one of the things that's, that I'm seeing at a broad level in terms of audience habits, our generation, we had average attention span for most things, right? I know there's a trope these days that the modern audiences, the youngsters, they have no attention spans. There was this, I think, Harvard study which showed that the average attention span of at least American youth was even less than that of a goldfish. But the reality is actually it's at two extremes.
Yeah.
The present youngsters will either give you nothing or they'll give you everything.
Yeah.
They won't even give you 5 seconds or they'll give you an entire weekend, right? Where they'll download, the entire series and binge watch, or buy all 3 books or all 4 books or 5 books of a series and read them all. So the point is this, for a content creator, your content has to be high quality enough that that audience gives you everything. And what this is doing, however, is for the average content creators, the average hit, they're facing a bad time. So even in the book space, the average bestseller, it's becoming very difficult for them. But the big bestsellers, their sales have gone up even more in the last 2-3 years. So it's
all or
really,
nothing.
Yeah,
it's all or nothing that the audience is winner take all, and it's all or nothing that the audience is giving.
That's a bizarre thing, Anuradha. The internet was supposed to be this democratizing tool. Actually, it's becoming a concentration tool.
That's very
the winners taking more and more, and there's a very long tail. You'll sell a few bits, but the average hit, which was actually the basis of most industries, difficult times for them.
How has all of this changed the way you do your work, you approach your work? Because we do know today that for publishing, all the rights that are sold either to television or to streamers or to films is a new, rich and a deep source of revenue. How does that impact the way you as the creator, as the writer, how are you approaching your work, and what are publishers telling you when you do a book? Because today you're not doing just books, you're also writing a series, you're presenting, and I'm going to talk about that at length in a bit.
I negotiate my deals separately. So what's with the publishers, only the books.
Yeah.
The other rights remain with me. That's a separate thing. It's up to authors how they want to negotiate their deal. But let me answer this from two perspectives. One, how you create your content. Second, how you manage your business. How you create your content, I've always had this. When you're writing or when you're composing music or when you're thinking of a film, don't care at all about the audience. Honestly care two hoots. Do not look at the audience. You can, of course.
You can tune out.
For the want of a better term, you have to be schizophrenic, right? So when you're creating, do not think about audiences, do not think about critics, do not think about publishers, don't think about anyone. Listen to the voice of your soul, keep it pure. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, right? But you have to keep it pure. And because, look, I think audiences these days demand authenticity. They may like it or they may not like it, right? But they want to see what you want to put out, not about you trying, at least I think, at least for the weekend binge. I'm not talking about the 10-second binge, for that weekend binge. A series like Dark, which is in German, was a massive hit in India. So, and that was authentically German, right? So, the point is people want to see authentic, real stuff. So, when you're creating content, do what feels right to you. Follow your blessing. Now, the second thing is how you manage your business. How you manage your business, look, the partnerships that you tie up, how you promote it, which channel it will go on. Like, for example, what Salman Rushdie said a wonderful thing, that actually OTTs are the new novels of the novels of the new age, because you have the gift of time, which you do not have in a movie. So depending on the medium that you are creating for, it puts restrictions on how much you can say of your content. I cannot go deep into philosophies and layering of characters. If it's a 2-hour movie, obviously I can't. But if it's in a series, then yes, one can do that. The point is, the biggest gift that a creator can get, does he get the gift of time from the audience? That's even more critical than money.
Absolutely.
Because only then can you actually create something that is worthwhile.
Let's talk about this show that you're presenting for Discovery Plus, The Legend of Ramayana with Amish. What made you do that? How did it come about? Because I managed to see all three, so I want you to fill me in, and then we'll discuss it a bit more.
You know, actually, this the credit must go to Discovery and Wide Angle Films. So they came up with the concept. They developed it, and then my team was approached for it. Apparently, I was the number one of their list of anchors they wanted to approach, because they wanted to make the show something that was respectful to our traditions but also modern. And one of the things I was told by them is that we have people on two extremes. Either they are modern but disrespectful of our traditions, or they are respectful but not modern. So apparently I fitted into that.
You managed to bridge that gap.
Well, I think I am that kind of person. I'm very respectful of our traditions. I'm very proud of our culture, but I think I'm modern as well. And I think, in fact, our ancient culture allows the space for modernity.
What
I love the
like? What was the experience like?
It was fantastic. Look, because
you traveled a lot, right?
Yeah, and I like putting myself in uncomfortable situations. That's how you grow, man. So you know, I moved from banking to publishing. I had no idea about publishing. Then from publishing to diplomat, and now to this. So the first day or two, man, it was difficult at this shooting, because we'd gone through the script, and you know, I had my own suggestions, etc. And but it's only when you actually start shooting, and this is actually location shooting, right? So it's not in a studio with a nice AC. Saying my respect for anchors and actors, people in front of the camera, has actually gone up. Because you know, people who don't do this, we assume it's a very easy job. All you have to do is someone's writing the lines for you. Just speak it.
No, but people aren't writing the lines for you.
Yeah, no, but in this,
unless you're acting,
of course, of course, I did extempore stuff, so I would change the lines. But essentially, you're just speaking
also
in front of the camera.
Also, because it's a subject that you have invested quite a bit of your time
but it's not so simple. Because if you're on the edge of a cliff and there's a 100-foot drop and the sea is bloody crashing out there and the sun is baking you and there's a bit of a drizzle and your back is hurting and you're like, I might just fall off, and you have to smile and deliver a good shot.
You have to just stay with the story, not your story, not the backstory of the anchor and the show production, right?
Yeah, but it was, it was, the crew was like the size of a mini film. Truly international class. You've seen the episodes. Discovery really, pulled out all stops. Megha, Sai, they did a wonderful job. I think the directors were fantastic. Sujata, Abhishek. I don't know if you've seen the photography, man. These they had this
the drones, a lot of drones.
So Prakash was the chief photography guy, then Nitin, Ravi.
Is there anything on this journey that traces the, the places that Ram, Lakshman, Sita would have stopped at in their journey in the Ramayana? Did any of this come to you as a new experience? Because they, they are places in a story, in a legend, in legend, and today they're also pilgrim sites, right? Very, very revered, very, very densely populated pilgrim sites, or popular pilgrim sites. Was any of this new to you in terms of your experience of the place?
A few things. Look, some of the stories which are there in the text, that I was aware of because I've read many of the texts. But there are
many versions of the text.
Yeah, but there are things which are a part of folk traditions. There's this lovely Sanskrit line, Shastrat Rudir Baliyasi, that folk traditions are more important than the texts. And some of the folk traditions that one discovers are fascinating, right? So there's this community called Ram Names who tattoo the name of Ram all over their body, including their face.
Also philosophically, what they were saying is because they weren't allowed to visit temples.
They said, we'll convert our bodies into temples.
A temple for Ram. I thought that
then was... Then at Chitrakoot, we discovered an underground, and Valmiki ji spoke of an underground river, and the Discovery team and Wide Angles, actually we went to that underground river. I got over my fear of claustrophobia in a small cave.
I was wondering, because I may not have done it, I would have probably done my lines outside.
No, but it was, but once you get through it, and in some ways I'm telling you, actually the entire crew, after some time it started hitting us. We are walking on a path that Lord Ram may have walked thousands and thousands of years ago. It starts making you feel very special, very spiritual, very connected to our ancestors, to our roots. The entire crew is people from many religions, right, in there. And we used to end the shoot with Jai Shri Ram, or the cooler ones would go JSR, which is the acronym for Jai Shri Ram. You felt so deeply connected. At Chitrakoot, you're right, it was so packed with pilgrims. But no one from the big cities, no one from the, the quote-unquote elite, the real Indians, the people who actually keep our culture alive. In some ways, this entire journey it's like getting more deeply connected with our ancestors, with our roots. It was a very, very special journey.
Amish, we were just talking about your show on Discovery Plus, about the legend of Ramayana. I want to know what you make of the fact that there is so much interest in the story of the Ramayana and in Ram as a hero today, and this spans not just the political zeitgeist, and we can see what's happening there, but also in the entertainment space. We are talking at a time where your series on Discovery Plus has just launched. RRR, this big, massive hit in the movie theatres, and which I think will have single-handedly brought people back to the theatre, has a character name, protagonist named Ram, who by the end of the movie almost manifests and becomes Ram, in the context of that film. What do you make of this enduring hold that Ram and the Ramayana have on our imagination, and what do you make of this, of mining this particular vein in our current modern day storytelling?
No, the connection to these stories is actually not modern. It's been around for thousands of years, and as I was speaking earlier, that we're the only pre-Bronze Age culture. There is still a living culture. Large part of it is the stories. What is a culture at the end of the day? It's the food we eat, the way we interact with each other, the land that we consider holy, various other things, and part of it is the stories that animate us, the stories that we know the stories that we believe. I read this wonderful line once that no Indian hears the Ramayana for the first time.
Yeah.
We are born with it. But we explore, even though we are familiar with the stories, there are still many things that we keep discovering. It's almost like we never get tired of listening to these stories again and again and again and again. And what, for the want of a better term, content creators have done for thousands of years is keep exploring these stories through different ways. The stories of our Adikavya and the Itihas, Ramayana, Mahabharata and the Puranas.
Given your understanding, your research, and the way you've expressed the story of Ram, you've evoked what it means to India, how it is such an integral part of our cultural heritage, our religious heritage. Are you worried, does it dismay you when you see the politicization of Ram in a way that has resulted in a very militant manifestation for this king who is revered as the Maryada Purushottam? For instance, you will see in many places in India today, you will see people have processions with swords in their hands, and Jai Shri Ram, you used it so beautifully to say how it became a sign-off and a greeting when you were filming your series. But today can have militant manifestations and can evoke a slightly ominous sense of majoritarianism, right? How do you react to that? Because I know your expression and your understanding is very nuanced throughout these years.
Okay. Let me explore this from a few perspectives. There is politics, yes, but India, this is the kind of country we are. Politics enters everything, right? And my belief has always been is that if you are speaking on social issues, if you are in the creative space, you should not speak on politics. Because by its very nature, when you are speaking on social issues, you are speaking of long-term issues. Politics by its very nature is in the immediate. So I will not get into politics of it. Let me explore the social issues of it. There is, there is a certain element of revivalism and pride, which I think is good, right? In any process of change, at times, some negativities also emerge. The Sagar Manthan story, the churning of the ocean. Lots of goodies came out from that. But at the beginning, poison came out, right? And Lord Shiva drank up that poison so that it does not hurt the rest of humanity. There is a process of change that started in India post-1991, post-economic reforms. We pulled, at least from, depending on reports you believe in, at least 350 million people out of poverty. And credit needs to go to political parties across all governments for this, right? And that is a damn good thing. And in many ways, things have improved dramatically. But any process of such fast change, some negativities will emerge. Some poison will emerge. And it's one of the things I appeal to at least those of us who are Shiv Bhakts, like I am. We should be like our God. We should try and drink up that poison. Don't add to the negativity, add to the positivity. Broadly, India is moving in the right direction. But we need to remove negativity because it's a byproduct of any process of change. That's one thing which at least all of us who are in the public space can attempt to do.
So
like how Lord Shiva did. Having said that, sorry. The second thing you're talking about is in terms of militancy. One of the things that is there in the dharmic traditions in India, of course, ahimsa paramo dharma, but dharma hinsa tathaivcha. That non-violence is good, but at times when you have to do violence, you have to do violence. I'm not saying citizens have any right to commit violence. No, any citizen who does that, the full force of the law has to come on that, regardless of community, wherever they are from. And for that, what we need to do is we need to improve our police judicial system. Our judicial system is horribly paralyzed. Let's be honest, we'll not be in contempt of court for saying that. We all know no case, you're going to die before any case reaches, we all know that, right? Needs desperate reforms. Our police force needs huge increases in manpower. They're desperately understaffed, right? We need to do that so that people don't take the law into their own hands.
Amish, on the occasion of Ram Navami, you tweeted something that I think people need to hear, listen and understand very carefully, especially in the context of our times. I've got it here. Yeah, go on, say it.
Rama Raja Vasitvam, Prochura Yasvatesharam, Nyayartham Yudhyasa, Sarveshu Samamchara, Paripalaya Durbalam, Vidhi Dharmam Varam.
And translate.
Prochara Yasvatesharam, Rama Raja Vasitvam.
and I can translate it. You live in Ram's kingdom, hold your head high, fight for justice, treat all as equal, protect the weak, know that dharma is above all, hold your head high, you live in the kingdom of Ram.
One has to understand in the Indian way, dharma is erroneously translated as religion often. Dharma is not actually religion. Panth is religion. Panth is a path.
Yeah.
Panth
So
is religion.
dharma is actually a moral outlook, isn't it?
Yes, dharma is that which binds the universe together, which binds society together, the right way to be, the balanced way,
a moral
to be.
path.
And dharma is above all. In our way, in the Indian way, dharma is above the gods too. There is no one god who's above everything else. Dharma is above the gods as well.
Your journey as a storyteller started with books and started as a writer. We know that you've got, I think, the 4th installment or the 4th book in the Ramchandra series in the pipeline, isn't it? How is the Westland publisher shutting down affecting you, Amish? Because what was that about? I mean, how does one is it about the economics of book publishing? And we also know Westland went from the Tatas to Amazon, and these are people with very deep pockets.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate what happened. It happened very suddenly. Fortunately, there are other publishers. One is speaking to already.
So all the books that were with Westland revert to you, the rights to those books.
And so I'm already in. My team is already negotiating. So yes, unfortunately, War of Lanka is ready to be launched, but but we have to
club the previous books with this in terms of rights.
So which is causing a delay in the publication, and through you I'd like to apologize to my readers. This time it's not my fault. War of Lanka is ready. We're just waiting to close the deal, which will delay things by a few months.
Is there a bidding war for your books for the Ramchandra
We are
series,
negotiating.
Amish?
We are negotiating, but we should launch it soon. But it was very sad what happened with Westland.
Is it about the economics of publishing? Is that why it's shut?
Look, the COVID pandemic has really hit, COVID and GST primarily have hit publishing. There's no doubt about it. Piracy has taken off dramatically in the online channel. So there are 3 key things.
So you're saying
400,
that
500,
you see
550.
the Westland closure as a result of the economics of
there is an
publishing
industry
today.
issue that has to be handled. And it's one of the things we'd appeal to the government, that because it's a very tiny industry, it's very low revenues for the government, but it has a cultural impact. So what can the government do?
Give it some special attention.
Some attention on GST, some attention on the piracy issue.
Amish, through this conversation a couple of times you referred to yourself as the diplomat. I think this is the 3rd year that you've been the director at the Thenehru Centre in London. What has that experience been like, and how does the fact that you're part of the government in that sense, in terms of employed by the government, right? How has that changed your worldview, and how do you evaluate what you've done in this role?
Unfortunately, I got into this role and the pandemic hit. So that many of the plans that I'd gone with obviously went out of the window. But I'm a silver linings kind of guy. So what happened was actually we could do many online things, and online really took off, which increased the reach of the Thenehru Centre.
What did you see your role as?
India is always culturally, frankly, we don't carry as much heft as a country of our size should. I know we like to think that that Westerners are sometimes fair or unfair to us. The reality is actually India is more often ignored rather than attacked or supported excessively. There's a soft power index which I had been invited to speak out there. A global country kind of country soft power index. Ban Ki-moon had launched it, former UN general. India was just number 27 out there in their entire group, on stage and on thing. I was the only Indian, and this was apparently an improvement on what it was earlier. So the point I'm trying to make is, for most of our independent history, we were actually ignored more often than not. It is changing now slowly. We are becoming much more
and you
much
see
more
the role
visible.
that you had to play as the director of the Thenehru Centre in advancing that soft
explain
power,
our point
going
of
up
view.
that index.
Explain our point of view, because actually they look at us from the Westerners, and they're the dominant paradigm, especially the Anglophone world. They look at us from their lens. And more often than not, the lens itself is wrong. Forget about the facts. The lens itself is
And how do you evaluate, how
wrong.
do you assess how you tackle that brief?
We speak calmly and speak politely and get our point of view across.
And firmly, okay.
Yeah.
Amish,
One doesn't have to shout and scream to get your point of view across. Just speak firmly and politely.
Okay, Amish, thank you so much. I wish you a lot of good luck with this series, with everything that you set out to do next. And it was, like I said, lovely meeting in person after all this time.
You.
Thank you. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back again with another conversation on Media Dialogue, so do keep a watch. Thank you.
Media Dialogues in 2022.